morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So, of course, we can say that the European Union has taken very ambitious steps to shape the future of AI, and most notably, it was done through the AI Act. And I think that it is a very important milestone, and I fully support the goal of ensuring the ethical use, the fundamental rights, and of course the protection of intellectual property. But I'm here today to also speak in favor of a more innovation-focused approach, as we are doing at Peer Innovation. So the one that also prioritizes the freedom to build, and not only the freedom from harm, because it always goes as a two-way street. So first, we debate now how to regulate future technologies, and meanwhile, the competitors are very busy deploying them. So if we are taking a look at the United States, it has taken a right touch and a very industry-driven approach. China invests heavily in AI with state backing and minimal constraints. And what we are seeing increasingly is that Europe risks regulating itself into irrelevance. So overregulation does not only affect big tech, but unfortunately it can also stifle startups, researchers, local developers, and usually those are closest to the public good, but they are quite vulnerable to compliance costs. And it is quite a high-risk label, even when it is applied cautiously, and in a way it can feel like a red light to experimentation in sectors like health, education, creative industries. So this cautiousness is already turned into a kind of paralysis. And of course, there are very rigid questions that you might ask me, like, aren't you worried that the regulation will lead to abuses like deepfakes, misinformation, job losses? And I absolutely recognize those risks, but regulation alone won't eliminate them. And the best way, in my opinion, to deal with bad use cases is through targeted enforcement and existing laws, like the GDPR or Digital Service Act. And of course, yes, there is the risk of abusing the technology, but then we need to deal with the issues like content labeling and doing that in a more profound way, watermarking, existing media laws, because it is also going to the more complex level, like the control of the narrative. And whether we want it or not, there always will be someone who will set the tone for the narrative. The question is, would Europe be interested in controlling that narrative or to adapt to the existing ones? So then I stand for not stopping the innovation, but just to go for those who abuse the use of the AI, and there are many of them, of course. Then another question would be, okay, but what's going on with the US, with China? And if we look at the legislative aspect, like Trump issued the executive order on removing barriers to the American leadership on the AI. And then we are seeing that, yeah, the technology will develop whether we want it or not. The same goes with China, of course. They are coming from a very different perspective, but then there is the competition that is going globally. What place will Europe, the European Union, take there? And also, if we are looking at the regulation aspect, there were more than 700 of AI-related bills issued in the US since the beginning of this year. And they were aimed to protect people from algorithmic bias more than in 45 states. The same goes to Chinese Cyberspace Administration. So I think that we believe in ethical standards. We need to protect them, but we also need to take care of the narrative. We can train the AI, and we can shape that. And of course, as the previous speaker rightfully mentioned, future is about forecasts. But how can we be sure about the future? It can always be 50-50. It will go or it won't go. I will allow myself to make a very bold comparison. But for example, the nuclear energy, it has pros and cons, yet people are still using that. Is there a chance that it will destroy the world? Absolutely yes. Are there some pros in that? Absolutely yes. The same goes with the technology. So then I think that the approach should be to be able to align the healthy markets with ethical boundaries and to turn it into a strength. And also to invest into open source tools, education, training, and private sector, because that will make Europe more competitive. So my claim here is that we really need to focus on building the future where European developers are not burdened, while American or Chinese counterparts will move faster and set the tone. So let's build a framework that empowers responsible innovation instead of preemptively punishing.